Hey guys, DibtheAwesome here to give you another Monster Legends Guides. We're talking about monsters, moves, rune sets, partners, all that jazz. Today we are talking about Ape-x, who is currently the monster you can possibly get in the current team races along with Lernian. That's if you get first place, of course, but everybody else gets this basically if they place 4th through 10th place. And I am actually kind of wondering why, okay, so the social opinion on this monster is exactly opposite of the enthusiasm of what it's receiving right now, and stuff like that. And I'm going to touch that basis after I'm done explaining everything about this monster and stuff like that. I'm going to get to that at the end, but for right now I'm going to tell you guys, because this is the important part. You guys want to know if you do love this thing or you just want to use it regardless of just the social, the entirety of the social Monster Legends community's opinion on this thing. I'm here to tell you, the benefits of running it. I'm telling you how you should run it, all that jazz. In my opinion, my personal opinion, you don't have to listen to me. You can go to somebody else. If you don't like my answers, you can go to somebody else. They'll tell you probably answers you do want to hear and stuff like that. But I'm just going to give you my personal opinion on this and stuff like that. And I'm going to compare this guy to the other kind of nature monsters that do follow in his format or his style, and that is the whole life regen style, with Judgment, Plymouth, General Ulysses. I'm going to compare him to those guys and all that jazz, to tell you where he's really at along with those players, because that's what this guy is in that category. He follows that tanky attacker kind of style and stuff like that, but he doesn't really do the damage they can do. In all perfect honesty, this guy is nowhere near the damage they could possibly do, and stuff like that. He's also really hindered by them. In all perfect honesty, the things that counter this guy are his brothers too. His brothers, his fellow man, his fellow tank brothers can actually counter this thing, in terms of just the natural element of damage, that which is poison, and stuff like that. But I'll get that in a bit. His power is 3,509. This is a very respectable attack power. This guy, when this guy moves, he's gonna hurt you if you have respectable damage moves up. I mean, if you have respectable runes up, that is, if you're not just running level 5 runes, if you're going beyond that, this guy starts to hurt in terms of single target damage. That is, and stuff like that. He starts to hurt. He can also spread poison pretty easy too, so that's also pretty important, and stuff like that. So that also kind of ups up the ante and stuff like that. So he does have damage presence. It's not like he doesn't have any damage presence, but he does have damage presence and stuff like that. He can have damage presence if you choose to build him that way. And stuff like that. His life is 31,969. This is a really great life. I think it's like the second life for nature monsters at the moment. A pretty nice, pretty tanky life, really sustainable. It scales well with self-healing and life regen and stuff like that, which this guy has. So this guy does have it, except for the life regen is actually his ultimate. He only gets his life regen from his ultimate here, which is actually kind of highlighted at the moment. But this is also a really huge problem because it's his ultimate. You only can ever have life regen when he ever uses his ultimate, and that's a chance thing. You might never even get it in a fight. But maybe you might if you build them really, really tanky. You might get this if you build them, realistically speaking, if you build them really, really tanky. Obviously you're living for more turns, you're just out there for a long time. At some point you will get this ultimate, just at some point in time. This could take a lot of turns, it could only take a few turns, or it could be at the very first turn this guy moves, and stuff like that. I will say only ever use this when you're in a dire situation, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to this ultimate in a little bit. His speed is 3,388. This was actually buffed. This stat right here was not his original stat. It was actually lower than that. It was 3,113. This is a huge difference. In all perfect honesty, if it didn't have this speed, you would have to run a speed rune with this thing, just because you're gonna get overran by the denier and stuff like that. In this case, you could still possibly get overran by the denier if the denier is really heavy on the speed runes and shit. But yeah, he's in a lot better position. I will say that he's in a lot better position than he was originally, in terms of just the speed food chain and stuff like that. He's in a way better position and stuff like that, just in a way better spot and stuff like that. And your kind of your main goal, just in any case of the game, is to really get rid of the denier first, because he's gonna outspeed you a lot. He's gonna be outspeeding you a lot and stuff like that. So whenever you're using a monster that has a low speed stat, your ideal situation is getting rid of the denier so you don't get outran. That's literally the only time you're gonna be like the move in the move order. You're not gonna have like the other monster's gonna have an extra turn because there's currently a denier that you haven't handled with yet, so they're going to get more turns and stuff like that. So you want to handle the denier first. In all perfect honesty, when you're using a monster, whatever the case, when you're using a monster with this kind of space speed, if it's not 3,400 something in any of those kind of cases, you do want to get rid of their denier first. You just kind of want to do that. It's just the basic situation. Just for the times you're not running a speed rune, a lot of people run speed runes on the attacker just for that case not to happen. But if you don't do that, if you choose to do a more healthy build for him that isn't like with the speed rune, because he doesn't really need the speed rune, but he only ever uses the speed rune in that situation, you should totally take out the denier first. In all honesty. Okay, his trait is immune to burning. This makes it so he doesn't. This is on all perfect honesty. In all perfect honesty, he does have one thing over the other tank nature monsters. Is this trait? Is because he's immune to the heaviest tank killing thing in the game. Burning kills tanks. In all perfect honesty, burning has such a huge effect on tanks. It's really heavy on them. They do not like being burned at any point in given time. In the case of the event, they don't have life regen and all that jazz. Which this guy, in all honesty, this guy doesn't have life regen. So him having this realistically actually really helps him. It helps him in those kind of situations where you're just dealing with like the burning and stuff like that. If you're being burned and stuff like that, this totally pops out. This is really relevant. But beyond that, though, this trait is really terrible for it in terms of dealing with his own kind. Because in all honesty, in a fight, in all perfect honesty, in a battle and stuff like that, you're always going to be dealing with a nature monster because it's like a rule, so everybody's going to have a nature monster out. And mostly every single nature monster, except for Judgment at times, Judgment usually doesn't run the poison move, but most of the time you're going to see a nature monster running a poison move. And if this thing gets poisoned, it's in a really bad spot. It does not like getting poisoned. It's just in a really bad situation. It does less damage. It's not healthy for it. In all honesty, damage reduction on this thing specifically is really not healthy for it. It's really bad. You can build the means to recover from the said poison damage. There's a move you can use to recover from that kind of damage, but for a while you're not doing any damage. If this guy's poisoned, you're not going to do any damage for a while. And he doesn't really have anything to get rid of said poison, so yeah, again, he's in a really bad spot. That's kind of why all the other nature, his other nature bros, the other bros in his category, like Ulysses, Judgment, and Playmouth, that's why they all count. In all perfect honesty, that's why they counter Ape-x, because this is one of the major reasons, is because they themselves can't get poisoned, and all this guy does can realistically, besides healing, is poison. And so yeah, he loses a huge chunk of his damage potential if he can't poison you. That's also another thing too you gotta realize with Ape-x. If he can't poison you, his damage presence is kind of not there anymore. It's just not there anymore if he can't poison his enemies. If the monster is immune to poison, and it just isn't a good time for Ape-x, he needs to be able to poison his enemies. In all perfect honesty, he can poison Ulysses. That's totally a thing. So he is workable in those kind of fights. But in terms of fighting Judgment and Plymouth, that's really not a good situation for him. Especially if they're doing creative with the builds and stuff like that. If you're fighting a Judgment or a Plymouth with really creative builds, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a really bad time. His ultimate, Protector of the Jungle, deals heavy nature damage, heals 10% for each enemy hit, may give regeneration to all allies, requires no cooldown because it's his ultimate, and requires no stamina because it's his ultimate. This is his best move, in all perfect honesty. If this is his best move, in all perfect honesty, his ultimate is his best move. Sadly, that doesn't, in that case then, that means everything else is probably not all that great. But this is his best move. Personally, if you get this ultimate, you're in a really good spot. You're probably in a game-changing situation here. This can be a game changer if you get it in a really bad situation where you're dying and you get that 10%, there's still 3 monsters yet, and you get this move and you can possibly wipe out the other 2, except the nature monster and stuff like that, depending on how shitty your situation is at this point. But if you do get this move and you are building the damage that this does you do a lot of damage, and you're like recovering, and you get life regen. This is huge. This is really huge. But sadly, though, this is the only time he gets life regen, and that hurt. That's the other problem. That's another problem with this monster compared to his nature bros. The only time he gets life regen is when he uses this move. All of his other nature bros can get this right away. And regen, quite honestly, regen is such an important thing on tanks. It is huge. You might not think it might be huge, but it is actually pretty huge in terms of competitive play. Being able to heal on the turn you move can save you from DOTs. It can just save you from being more like at that point, they have to do, if their damage is lower and stuff like that, if their damage is lower and they do need a double damage move, if their damage is lower, this starts to heal you start to heal more than they're doing damage to you, is my main point. So if you build like life runes on your like tanks and stuff like that, this obviously scales more. The more life runes, the more life you have, the more this scales and stuff like that. It's the same concept of damage. The more percentage of your strength, the more damage you're gonna do. That's the same thing with life regen. That's the same thing. That's the same thing with recovery in general. The more life you have, the better you recover. That's just the general norm. So just keep that in mind. The more health you have, the more you recover. This also really helps him in his stance of being a tank. In all honesty, this guy excels at tanking. That's the main point of this monster. He's not there to sweep. He's there to tank. In all perfect honesty, this guy's meant to tank and stuff like that. I will recommend one move in Skill Groups 1. I do think you should run this move, but it's my opinion. It's just my opinion. You don't have to run it. This is, it's all opinion based. It's all just suggestions and stuff like that. I really think you should run this move, Restoring Strike, to heal yourself from poison damage. Does this do the most damage? No, it's not there to do the damage. It's there for the recovery. And again, remember what I said before. Healing, the more health you have, the more healing you get, it's just the more points you get back, more point value back and stuff like that. So this could actually, if you build high enough life runes and stuff like that, you don't even ever have to worry about denier damage, because the denier damage, honestly, is just going to clean off and stuff like that. Because of this move, you are recovering every turn. This is a really nice thing. I will say this is a really nice thing. This is one thing, this is an option like not all the other tanks have, is like having that, that spam ability healing. They don't have a spam ability healing. They usually just heal once, and then they have to wait till their cooldowns are off to use it again. This is really nice. In all perfect honesty, this move is really nice, just in the fact of the sake of recovery. This move is not great for damage. In terms of spammable damage, this is his only spammable move. This is only the spammable option you can even run on this thing, and stuff like that. But you use this in the sake of recovery. You're using this in the sake of stalling, or just making sure you don't die from poison. That's the only purpose of this move. It's the sole purpose of this move. You might think I'm just like, no, that's a really stupid idea, Dib. Well, this is my suggestion and stuff like that. Again, you don't have to follow it, but I think it's a really good situation if you're not just building damage. If you're actually building like a legitimate tank build, like 2 lives and a strength rune, which is actually really nice. I run like Ralbog with two lives and a strength, and it usually actually works pretty well for me. They don't do a whole lot of damage, but if you start scaling again, if you build like a lot of life, this scales better. Obviously, the healing scales better. You get more points, more point value the more life you have. It's the same thing with damage and all that jazz. Is it a whole lot? Is 10% a whole lot? No, but the more you scale, it starts to matter at that point. Mysterious Toxins deals heavy special damage, may poison target, requires cooldown of 2 turns, 28 stamina, 50 damage. This is really nice. This is a really nice move, and you have to run this move. You have to run it. It's a special damage move. It's really nice. It's good for the nature attackers. You usually just use this for nature attackers. You can use this on other stuff too, and stuff like that. At which point you might have to. I mean, you have to kind of use this on everybody, or at least the 2 special damaging moves, because these are his mainstream damage moves. In all perfect honesty, his 2 special damage moves are his mainstream damage. This is the stuff you're mostly doing damage with. They run on 2-turn cooldowns, fairly low cooldown moves, and they're pretty important. And another problem with this too, you have to use one of the 2 special moves, because it's part of the combo. You have to use one of the 2 special moves on the first turn, or else it just lowers your damage output. You have to do it on the first turn, so they get off cooldown faster, so you can move more and stuff like that. Assuming this guy is your mainstream damage and stuff like that. This obviously sells more if you have 2 strength runes rather than 1, but you get, that's just assuming if you are running a mainstream damage build, and this guy might very well be your attacker, and that's fine. That's fine if you run 2 strength runes in his life. I will say the nicer you are with that life rune, that single life rune, the better this thing is. I will say that. Sorry, that was just my phone for notifications. But it scales better. In all perfect honesty, it scales better. It will scale a whole lot better in terms of competitive play if you're doing the damage rune set of 2 strengths and a life. If you're really generous on that life rune, don't put a level 5 rune. I'm not saying just put a level 5 rune on it. That's not enough. Put it like a level 8 or 7 or 8 or 9. Any of those 3 runes, put that on it and it runs better. The more life you have, the better this thing runs. I will say that. That can be said with any of the nature tanks, but this one especially. The more you're nicer with that life rune, the better it runs. In all perfect honesty, I'm going to say that 1,000 times so I just get it in your head. If you're nice on the life rune, it excels a lot better because this guy is behind with the other nature monsters, in the other nature tanks because of a lot of situations. There's a lot of things that he runs behind on. So yeah, you do need to run this move. You do need to run Mysterious Toxins. Rise ally target heals by 40%, requires cooldown. You can run this on a supportive one. In all perfectly honesty, you can build this guy as a supportive tank, offensive tank. It totally depends on your boat. This is an optional move to run. Just keep in mind of the cooldown. The cooldown is really terrible. I wouldn't recommend this just for the main idea I'm saying. But it's 40% heal, it's a 3-turn cooldown. This is actually like other monsters can do this, but they do it better. Like Ulsis and like Neemstress just do this better. Don't even bother running this move. Personally, just from my personal experience, don't run this move. I don't have this guy, but I get the situation and stuff like that, and just thinking of all the outcomes and stuff like that, I can't ever imagine it being all that great. You kind of have to wait for the cooldowns. I will say the cooldowns are crippling on this guy. This guy has some really, like the damage moves obviously aren't crippling, except for one damaging move, which we're getting close to here in the skill group 3. But beyond that, though, this guy's cooldowns actually really cripple it in terms of, like, supporting too and stuff like that. So yeah, it has a really crippling. Oh, see, this guy has some really crippling moves. In all honesty, Wild Venom deals low nature damage to all enemies by poison all targets. Requires cooldown. Now you should probably run this move. In all honesty, you should more than likely run this move because it lowers the damage you take. It makes it so you can stomach more damage. I will say if you do run this move, don't ever fight a monster that's immune to poison. I will say, like a nature monster that's immune to poison. That's just not a good situation for it. You need to be able to poison monsters in order to take full advantage of this guy's damage output. Even if you're trying to take advantage of this guy's damage output, you need to fight something that's not immune to poison. That's literally not an option for you. Oh, can I fight Judgment that's immune to poison? Would I win that fight? You probably won't, because you can't wither Judgment down. I will say that. Don't ever bring this to a Judgment fight. Don't ever bring this guy to a Plymouth fight. Well, you can bring it to a Plymouth fight if they're poorly ruined, but you get my point. It just won't work out for you. That can be said for any monster too. If you are running really, really good runes on it, compared to the other nature monster, and you can deny them and stuff like that. Obviously, you can bring it to those fights, but if you can't really handle them, like in terms of just straight up denying, I mean, if they recover shit done and stuff like that, this guy really doesn't do you any good. This guy really doesn't do you any good. So I will repeat this one last time. Bring this, if you use this move, bring this monster to fights where you can poison them. I guess that's just a general case, actually. If there's a monster immune to poison, don't bring Ape-x to the fight. Just don't. It doesn't work out for you. It just doesn't in terms of dealing damage. His damage is lowered at that point. If you are using him in the means of damage, or just the sake of damage, don't bring him to things that are immune to poison. It won't do you any good. It's not gonna do you any good. You may only, in all honesty, you're probably only ever gonna use this move once. Despite this being a long cooldown and stuff like that, you may only ever use this move once, because that's all it's really needed, because this thing lasts for 4 turns. The poison lasts for 4 turns and stuff like that. And honestly, the stamina cost is really high. It just is. Again, realistically speaking, I can only ever see this move being used once. I really love 2-turn cooldown moves. In all honesty, I really do. This one doesn't have really high damage output, though, and stuff like that. It just doesn't. In terms of, like, see, it's like a 30 damage. If this was 35, this would actually be huge. But you know, it's 30 damage and stuff like that. This works better, obviously, if you're running double damage buff. Obviously, this runs a lot, like the damage output's a lot better, or triple damage buff. This runs in that better in those situations. But yeah, 30 damage isn't a whole lot to work with. If it was 35, 35 is respectable. That's the lowest, like any, like in terms of like just AOE. If it's not spammable, that's the most respectable thing we'll give credit to is 35 damage AOEs. 30 damage, better if it obviously runs better if it's buffed. But you know, 35 is more acceptable. We can stomach 35 damage more than we do 30 damage, unless they have like a double damage boost, of course. The Jungle Lives. This is the other move you have to run. Deals heavy special damage, heals by 25%, requires a cooldown of 2 turns. So yeah, you do need a cycle between. These are your 2 damage moves. You have to run these 2 moves. In any given set, you have to run these 2 moves. It's just a huge requirement. You have to run these 2 moves. These are your main damage moves. This is the only time you're ever doing any damage. And stuff like that. Realistically speaking, these are his most damage. In terms of damage, these are his most important moves. These are really important that you put these 2 moves on. Just because you can do it's a healthy combo rotation. In all honesty, you use this move, and then you use the other move, and then you use any other move. Any other move you have on it, or you maybe do the AOE poison and stuff like that, and then you can go right back to the jungle. You can go back to this move, and you can go back to this move, depending on what you do that first turn. That's why I say you should totally either run use one of these moves on the first turn. You should totally do that, or you should use Wild Venom on the first turn. I will say that either use Wild Venom on the first turn, or it's either Wild Venom or one of these 2 moves. You always are going to start out the game with one of these 3 moves, in all perfect honesty. That's if you run Wild Venom. You don't have to run Wild Venom if you don't want to, but realistically speaking, these are the 2 moves. You have to use one of these 3 moves first, and so like after you use the other 2, or just any other of the 2 combinations, you can go straight back to your damage again. That's just the combo rotation. This guy does, realistically speaking, this guy does have a combo rotation and stuff like that. Compared to other healing, this is actually a 5% less healing than the other tanks, which is why, again, you should really be generous with the life rune, obviously, because you're going to scale better with healing and stuff like that if you put a really heavy life rune on it. Mend the Wounded. All targets healed by 30%, requires cooldown. I swear, every single nature monster has this kind of AoE. Every single one, and stuff like that. Everyone does. It's a great support. This is kind of like an extra guy option. Totally is. It's 30% and stuff like that. This is alright. I will say it's alright healing, but it's on a 3-turn cooldown. This isn't too healthy. Personally, I like at least 2-turn. At least like the 2-turn. Like if it's a 2-turn AoE. Gullen can actually do this in a span of 2 turns, which is really nice. If you ever used like Gullen, a lot of people think Gullen is like terrible and stuff like that. He's actually really nice in terms of if you ever used him. Gullen's actually really nice. Does he do the most damage? No, he's not really. He doesn't really do the most burstiest damage, but he has a lot of neat things about him. He's immune to stun. He's really tanky. A lot of people have like problems with his cooldowns, but I've never really had problems with it. In all perfect honesty, I've never really had problems with his cooldowns. He is a really nice monster. I recommend at least trying for a bit. Don't think of him as a way of doing damage. Just think of him as a way of doing a lot of supportive stuff like dazing, healing, and all that jazz. He's a really beefy monster. In all honesty, Gullen is so beefy. Gullen is so beefy. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Use this on. In all honesty, use this move on an extra guy set, and all that jazz. In all honesty, use this move on an extra guy set. Of just like a strength, life, and a speed. I just kind of like to take advantage of everything. It's more so an extra guy presence and stuff like that. This can save you from a lot of things. In all honesty, 30% healing can save you from a lot of things in general. Just in as long as it's not like really bursty damage. If you're not in a situation where you're not fighting really bursty damage, this can save you. Yeah, it can save you from the DOTs and stuff like that. That's totally an option. Just keep in mind, 3-turn cooldown, pretty heavy cooldown. Again, this guy doesn't run the best cooldowns of all the nature monsters. In fact, this guy, in terms of like the other nature tanks, this guy doesn't really, this guy doesn't really, and realistically speaking, I don't think anybody's ever going to run, you know, like, at least not many of the people are going to, like, actually resort to using Restoring Strike, which I think you should, and honestly, I think you should, but, because it's just the sake of recovery, again, it's only for the sake of recovery, but yeah, he doesn't really have any spammable damage and stuff like that. That's actually pretty huge. You can't really use this guy against Timuron and stuff like that. That's huge. He doesn't have a spammable move, which is actually, there's another problem, too, with this monster. He doesn't have a spammable move, realistically speaking, unless you do the Resonating Strike, which, again, I think you should do, just for the sake of tanking. But, yeah, he doesn't, in terms of just sake of damage, he doesn't have a spammable move, and for the sake of damage, he doesn't have that. I really do, in all honesty, I really love attackers that can spam damage, unless, like, that damage they do without, like, you know, if they do run all cooldown and stuff like that, that damage is really respectable. I will tolerate that if it's respectable damage, but not if, like, it's his whole kit. It does kind of hamper with his damage output a bit, since he can't really spam a move and stuff like that, since he has to actually wait for his cooldowns to come back up again. Survival of the Fittest. Deals heavy nature damage, may poison target, heals by 20%. This requires a cooldown of 4 turns. It's a 33%, it's a 33 stamina move and 55 damage. Everybody runs this move. I don't know if any of the guide makers have said this in the past, or you know, just have made this claim before, but I'll do you guys that favor, or slash, you know, you guys are gonna probably hate me for this. I'm gonna say this move is shit. This move is, I'm gonna be honest, this move is shit, and everybody runs it. I'm sorry guys, but this move is really shitty. I'm sorry, it's just, really is. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, Dib, but it poisons, it gives, like, 20, it heals you, too. Why are you saying this shit? It's a great move, right? It's a 4-turn cooldown. In all perfect honesty, if you really wanted to use a move like this, all perfect honesty, if you're using this monster for the sake of this move alone, just run Plymouth. Plymouth does this better. Plymouth, it runs on a 3-turn cooldown, which is a huge difference than a 4-turn. You know, you wouldn't think that extra turn wouldn't matter too much. It does. It actually can, and stuff like that. It runs on a 3-turn cooldown. I think it's less stamina too. It is less stamina. The move is anyway. I think it's like only 30 stamina, and it does 5 damage less. But realistically speaking, that's all right. But you do special damage. That's huge, and stuff like that. And he also gets the option to choose. He gets to choose when he wants to do it. This guy, not too much. You have to use. You kind of have to use this move specifically. It kind of forces you to use it in a specific situation where you're using it against the magic monster. And all honestly, that's the only reason. That's the only time I ever recommend even putting this move on there, for the sake of just doing burst damage to magic monsters. That's the only time you should ever put this move on this monster. Is it a damage output move? Could you greatly use it? Yeah, you could use more. You know, this is great single target damage. Don't get me wrong. This is great in single target damage. But in all perfect honesty, this move is shit. It really is. You're only ever going to use this move once. You get to use this once. It's like you get one sniper. This is basically it's like a sniper rifle bullet. It's coated with poison, and it also heals them and stuff. It gives them a benefit and stuff like that. But in all perfect honesty, this move is really shitty. In all perfect honesty, I'm sorry, but it just is. If you think this is like his best move, it's really not. It is really not his best move. Because it hurts him. You're punished for putting this move on, because once you're using it, you only have 3 moves. In all perfect honesty, you have 3 moves at this point. In all perfect honesty, once you've used this move, it's on a 4-turn cooldown, you only have 3 moves at this point. In all perfect honesty. Unless you plan on tanking this out, unless you can tank this out and wait actually like survive 4 turns to use this again, realistically speaking, you're using this once. You're gonna use this once. This move isn't all that great. It's not a healthy move rotation, in all honesty. This guy, like, a lot of these moves do run on really high cooldowns and stuff like that. It's just really unhealthy for it. In all honesty, it's really, really unhealthy. It is so unhealthy to run this move. I'm sorry, it just really is. It just really, really is. It just is. Because, like, in a lot of situations, where you do need to, you do need another move. You might need that you might actually need that 4th move slot for, like, another move and stuff like that. Or just to, like, stomach damage and stuff like that. Poison damage. I will say that again. The main idea for this monster isn't really there to do, like he's meant to do, like, tanking, some supportive stuff in between if you do build him, like, supportive, like, maybe, like, Wild Venom or, like, Mend the Wounded. But, that it's not his main point to do very bursty damage. If you want to do very bursty damage, just run Judgment. Run Judgment if you want to do really bursty damage with a nature attacker and stuff like that. This guy really can't use. In all honesty, this move is really unhealthy for it. It might seem like it benefits. It seems like a really huge beneficial move, but it's really not. it's a really heavy cooldown. When are you gonna get to use this again? In 4 turns? Yeah. How long is your game going at that point? This is a really heavy move and stuff like that. It's really heavy and it's really unhealthy. It just is. You can, I will say, you can run this move. In all honesty, you can run this move for the sake of bursting non-magic monsters. But just personally, in my personal opinion, you should totally run, instead of running this move, you should totally run Restoring Strike for the sake of you're tanking at this point. You're sponging, and it can save you from poison damage. In all honesty, if you're poisoned, you're not in a good spot. You just aren't. if you're just like 1v1ing a judgment, if you're poisoned too, this can save you from that poison damage. Of course, you still have to stomach that special damage too. So even at that point, you're not in a good situation and stuff like that. But yeah, this can save you. And honestly, though, again, you shouldn't really bring this to judgment fights. I did say bring this to fights where they're not immune to poison. But yeah, this move can possibly save you. In all honesty, because if you instead of using this move, you use Restoring Strike. If you have killed their damage at this point, and it's only their denier left, in all perfect honesty, you can just, or it's not even their denier, it's like their damage, their denier. Usually this is a 2v2 case, but yeah, or like, this is like in a case where we're just doing 1v1, 3v3 legendary fights. You will recover your life and stuff like that with this move. Because in all perfect honesty, since this thing is immune to burning, and the other thing is poison in that situation, really, very few monsters are capable of bleeding, and that's the only other time. The only other time you're taking an extra DOT is from nightmares and stuff like that. That's the only other time. So that's why this move is actually really great, because it's really great in the sake of recovery. You're recovering from poison damage. This guy does not excel when he's poisoned, and all nature monsters poison and all that jazz. This again, you can't. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying, like, if you're taking my advice on this move, it's not that great. Plymouth just does this better. Plymouth has in all honesty, Plymouth has the best like single target heal in the game, or not like in the sake of healing allies by himself. It's the best self recovery move in the game, because it poisons, 30% heal. This doesn't even do 30% heal. I'm just now realizing this. It's not even even though I probably said it in the beginning of explaining this move, it's a 20% heal. This isn't even a 30% heal. You're not even healing by 30%. They took 10% off away from you. They took 10% away from you, and all you really get for the trade-off is 5 more damage and another turn cooldown and 3 more stamina. Comparing that to the other, it's not all that great. Does Plymouth have lower base stats? Yeah, he does. If you put really good runes on him, that doesn't matter at that point. In all honesty, if you put the better runes you treat a monster with, the better it runs. It just is. If you're not just running level 5 runes, obviously it runs better and stuff like that. Yeah, so this move is really bad. Only ever use this move. Oh, and if you do put this move on it, only ever use it when you're dealing with magic monsters. Enough said. That's literally I can give all for you for this move. It doesn't even do a different DOT if you think about it. Like the mysterious toxins, poisons, wild venom poisons. There's really no point in this move. In all perfect honesty, like this whole like kit right here, it doesn't in the span of these 2 moves. There's really no point of this move. Sorry if that was just a really long explanation. It's just my personal opinion on it. Alright, now we're getting to like a major discussion in this video. I guess runes real quick, runes and partners real quick, and then I'm just going to discuss something. Basically at that point, the guide's finished. If you don't want to listen to the discussion, you can end it at that. But for runes and partners, runes I recommend either 2 lives and a strength, or 2 strengths and a life. That life rune has to be really great. Be very generous with that life rune. This guy runs a lot better the nicer the life rune is. Don't be cheap on the life rune. Actually go out and get a level 7, 8, or 9 life rune. You can get a level 10 life rune too if you really want to be nice with this thing and give a level 10 life rune. Go ahead and do that. It scales better. It scales a lot better. The nicer the life rune is if you do 2 damage and a life, which I'm assuming you guys are probably going to do at this point. You guys are probably going to do 2 strength and a life. That's probably the more likely the case. But yeah, partners real quick. Partners, Totem. Pair this guy up with Totem. Why am I saying Totem even though this guy has a really nice power? He doesn't really need to be patched if you have really nice runes and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, Totem in all honesty, Totem is really great, giving you insane amounts of power at some point. At some point you do so much damage, you just one-hit things at that point. It works great with Ape-x because he can tank. He's out there longer. So the longer, if you build a life rune on Totem, he stays out there longer and stuff like that. Depending on your situation and stuff like that, you can do 2 speeds and a life rune and stuff like that. And again, the other nature monster is probably either General Ostis or something that's not immune to poison. You can just stack. You can stack damage on Ape-x, and at some point this restoring strike right here does a lot of damage. Believe me when I say this. At some point when you stack up damage, to stack up the power rune on your attacker and stuff like that, or the power buff on your attacker, you can stack Totem's power buff on anything. You can stack it like Mahu Mojo. You can stack that. You can stack that as much as you want, and at some point, these really low damaging moves can do some really serious damage. I did, I used Egg Eaters at one time with Totem, in a war. I did 30k damage with the 25 damage AoE. That's nuts. I've actually done that. If you ever looked back at that, I can't remember if it was the first or second Magic double Magic War series. I mean, the live stream anyway. During that time, I have actually done that. I'm not even kidding. I actually did 30k damage with the AoE. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, this will scale better with if you had Totem. This obviously the damage output at some point doesn't even matter if it's 30 damage. At some point you're just going to do so much. You have so much damage. I mean, you have so much strength at this point. You're going to just one hit something down and stuff like that. So I do recommend Totem. And Totem can actually, in all honesty, Totem can help you take less damage too. Totem can also increase your life. Totem is, in all honesty, Totem is a really great partner with this guy. He also can give you life too. It can give you as much life as you want. So if you wanted to do 2 strengths and a life, Totem can fill in that life spot. He can give you life. He can give you anything you want. He can treat this guy any way he wants it. He wants a sundae, you can give him a sundae. If he wants a triple shake double chocolate ice cream cone, that's a really interesting combination. I wonder even how that even works. But yeah, you can give that to him. You can give him anything he wants and stuff like that. Virtually speaking, you give him anything he wants. You can give him more life, you can give him more strength, whatever he needs. And he can also lower the damage output of the enemies with his AoE, 30% decrease of damage, power and stuff like that. That's huge. That scales really well with poison and dazing. I will say if it's a legendary war and stuff like that, and you do have Totem with you, the other denier can be something that gives dazing too. So H2O Delirious, just in the sake of reducing more damage. You can use Timeron with Timeron, Totem, and this guy. I will say that's a really dangerous combination. That combination is severely scary at that point. But you can give them the damage reduction move. More damage reduction. It's just really heavy. And all that jazz. It obviously works really great and all that jazz. Because you can do stop time, you can reduce you can reduce damage taken. The less damage. In all honesty, if the enemy doesn't do any damage at all to you, if they're whittled down in their days, they're toxic, they're power reduction by Totem, their power reduction by Timeron's age move, the aging move, they do know their damage is gone at this point. They can't even kill Totem or Timeron at this point. They're so low in damage output, it's disgusting. And stuff like that. In all honesty, I think that's his best combination. You can do a denier into attack, another attacker. You can do that, and that's about it for partners. Perfect honesty. In all perfect honesty, that's the best thing for partners. So now I'm gonna get to the general point of the general social view of this monster and the opposite reaction. Let's start with the opposite. Let's start with the actual reaction to this monster. The actual thought of the whole populace of this monster, of the Monster Legends community. Everybody thinks this monster is shit. Everybody, I've never once heard praise for this monster. I've never once heard praise for this monster. And I've said, "Oh, Ape-x is so great. Ape-x is cool. You gotta, everybody should totally get Ape-x and stuff like that." I've never heard that once. I never heard anyone squeal with joy on Ape-x. In all honesty, I've always heard people talk crap about Ape-x. And honestly, I've heard people talk crap about Ape-x. You know, like there's better. Oh, this guy's not as good as Judgment. This guy's not as good as General Ulysses. And to be perfectly honest, yeah, they're not any. He's not any better than them. Because, you know, just a bunch of situations. Ulysses has 100% heal. Judgment gets to choose when he wants to use his recovery moves. This guy, in all honesty, this guy has to use his recovery move because it's part of his attack combo. That's huge actually for just like a tanking in general, because you have to choose the right time to heal and stuff like that. And with this guy, he has to move, he has to do damage as he does his healing moves. So you probably want to do, like, in all honesty, you probably want to do like the poison move and stuff. You could say it doesn't really matter if your comp is really good and you don't take any damage at all, but you know, in some situations where it's a really huge tank fight, yeah, you kind of need to be able to do that, and this guy doesn't get the option to do that if he wanted it to. But yeah, nobody's ever talked any praise about this thing. And any praise at all on this thing. I think at this point, I think people just want this just for the sake of having it, just having it in their collection. I think that's pretty much their point. Because the opposite, like the actual, I mean, the reaction at the moment for like just this Lost Race Island event, people are just saying, I just wanted to have it, or like, you know, let's get Ape-x. Yeah, let's go get Ape-x. It's gonna be really cool and stuff like that. You know, it's really weird. I don't understand that at all. I think it's just for the people that aren't spending a single gem, probably aren't spending any gems at this point in this event, probably because they just want a free monster and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't understand it. Like, I really don't understand the reaction at the moment. Like for this monster, and maybe it's just because they think it's a free monster. It's not really a free monster. People are spending gems at the end of the day to even get a place in this thing. But yeah, it's just an opposite reaction. Nobody's ever praised this thing, in all honesty. In terms of just the social community, the viewers for watching this video, if you really are interested in this monster, you know, just toss that. That's just the general. In all honesty, that's just the general opinion out there and stuff like that. Everybody just thinks that, and just the social norm and stuff like that of Monster Legends. That's just the populist opinion on this monster. Now, do whatever you want. If you really love this monster, if you think this monster is really great and stuff like that, totally use this guy. Love this guy. Totally use him in every bite. Yeah, and stuff like that. What's my opinion on him? In all honesty, he's alright. I think people are using him the wrong way. I think people are using him the wrong way. In all perfect honesty, this guy's meant for In all honesty, this guy's meant for tanking and fighting in specific situations. This guy fights on his turf alone and stuff like that. And people are just kind of using him for the sake of damage. And you shouldn't use this guy for the sake of damage. You should use him in the sense he's a tank. He's a tank and stuff like that. True, he does damage. He does have the option to do damage, but he's more so there to survive. He's more so there to last as long as he can, and stuff like that. The whole game with this monster is like surviving as long as you can to use your protector of the jungle. That's really the main point of this monster. I think this is an alright monster. He's alright. He's not bad. He recovers a lot if you build them right. I think people use him in the wrong sense, though. In all honesty, I think people are using, because every single person is putting survival of the fittest on this monster. I don't think it's the healthiest rotation choice. It's just not a healthy move rotation. In all honesty, I think people, in all honesty, like if you do go for kind of a damage oriented set, I think you should go aim for long-term damage. In all perfect sense, you should run Mysterious Toxins. Oh yeah, that's my phone again. You should run Mysterious Toxins. You should run The Jungle Lives. You should run Wild Venom, or Mend the Wounded if you wanted to more so heal everybody. If you wanted to, even though his self recovery is great, if you wanted to go that extra step and heal, give everybody a chance to heal and stuff like that, you can totally do that. But I think if you ever get your ultimate, this move is kind of irrelevant. I will say, if you get if you have Mend the Wounded, but you do get your ultimate at some point, that move is kind of irrelevant. That's if you get it on the first 3 turns or something like that. But yeah. I think in all honesty, I think the best build for him is Mysterious Toxins, The Jungle Lives, Wild Venom, and this move, Restoring Strike. The reason why I highly prefer Restoring Strike over Survival of the Fittest is because you can spam this. At some point, you do heal more. Okay, in all honesty, in all perfect honesty, 4 turns of if you just use this move straight up for 4 turns, you will recover 40% life. In all perfect honesty, in the span of 4 turns, if 2 people ever use this move, in all honesty, 2 people ever use this move, and let's say for some reason it's just a fight, it's testing this out and stuff like that. The enemy uses Survival of Fittest on yours, so now you're poisoned and stuff like that. You're taking poison damage. for any case of situation, let's just say they only have these two moves. Let's just say they only have these two moves to work with, or just something like that. You're actually going to survive the poison. In all perfect honesty, you're going to survive the poison. In all honesty, you're going to survive his poison damage because you're going to always use Restoring Strike. So you can actually retaliate. If, let's say, someone who uses Survival of the Fittest, you can retaliate that by using either... you can probably retaliate that by poisoning them themselves with Jungle Lives, and then, they move again, they do damage to you. You can use the Jungle Lives, to heal back that 2 turns of poison damage you've now just taken, plus a 5% back of, what you just took and stuff like that. And then you can just spam Restoring Strike, and all perfect honesty, you can just do that, and you're in a really good spot, and all perfect honesty. You're in a really good spot because you're no longer taking poison damage. Is your damage output lowered? Yeah, it kind of is, but you're kind of you're stomaching things better and stuff like that. If you kind of do more, again, if you do more so of a tanky build, your scaling of tanking is better. So that's, in all perfect honesty, that's everything you need to know about Ape-x. I'm sorry if this guide was really long. It's a monster. I guess it's a monster of main looking at the moment, or I don't even know how to word it. I guess it's like a monster of the topic at the moment, like an interesting topic. Is Ape-x even any good? Should I even use them and stuff like that? I think those are the main those are the main topics and stuff like that. That's the main thing going around. But yeah, that's everything you need to know about Ape-x. I'm really sorry that this guide was really long. It's just an in-depth guide. It's just really everything you need to know about Ape-x, and stuff like that in every situation. Quite honestly, in all perfect honesty, I think Plymouth is better. Just in terms of moves, I think Plymouth actually plays out better. And if you really wanted a good, if you really unsure about this thing still, I highly recommend Plymouth. Why? Because he gives AoE life regen. AoE life regen is actually pretty huge. He can do this naturally. In all honesty, you have to wait. You have to this is a chance thing with Protector of the Jungle, like AoE life regen for everybody. Plymouth can set that up right away. He can give everybody life regen, and that's really huge in a fight. In all honesty, if everybody's healing, that's a problem for the AI. That's a huge problem with the AI, because the AI doesn't usually do the right thing, and they don't usually burst down the right opponent and stuff like that. And so if you're healing during that time, that's really not a good situation for the AI. The moves, obviously, his rotations are better. You can wait. In all honesty, you can wait to use his healing move, and you can just use a spammable move while you wait to be taking damage and stuff like that. That's totally an option. Plymouth plays this game a lot better than Ape-x in terms of just that game of recovery and stuff like that. Also, like, Plymouth's ultimate also heals everybody too. It heals 30% for everybody, and that's huge. For this one, for Protector of the Jungle, he only heals himself. That 10% heals for each enemy. He's only healing himself. It's a self heal. Plymouth's ult, it's a whole heal. Everybody's getting 30% heal. It's an ultimate. Can every nature monster do an AoE heal? Can this guy do it? Yeah, you can totally do that. But in that span of situation, just how that plays out, it just plays out really great and stuff like that. And keep in mind, he has regeneration on everybody at the moment too. Plymouth can always have regeneration up on everybody, and it's really great. It is really great and stuff like that. So yeah, that's everything you need to know about Ape-x. I am now officially done. Thank you for watching this guide for however long it was. I'm DibtheAwesome. I'll catch you guys later.